the summer of 2020. The world was in the midst of the COVID pandemic, and it was very questionable if I was even going to go to the prairies like I do every year. I was waiting to see how things would unfold, and as they calmed down in Canada after the first wave in the spring, I decided to hit the road, even for just a short season. I left 2.5 months late, in early July. Because of this, I decided not to spend any time in Calgary like I usually do and go straight to Saskatoon, but I still had to pass through Calgary, so that was my destination for that night. This is the route I take almost every year, the Trans-Canada Highway, or the number 1, which is the fastest route to Calgary. But that year, I took a slight detour, just to change things up a bit. I went through Kelowna and then reconnected with the number 1 up here, at Sicamous. When I finally reconnected with it, I saw all these trucks on the side of the road, just waiting. I immediately knew that something was not right, but I was doubting that the number 1 was actually closed. I mean, this is the Trans-Canada, the most important highway connecting east and west. There's no way it could actually be closed, could it? Well, turns out, it could. Some truckers were telling me that there was this flooding east of there, between Sicamous and Revelstoke, and that it only started earlier that day. The highway was inaccessible, and there was no other direct way through. It was obvious that at this point, I wasn't going to make it to Calgary that night. So I turned around and went back to where I came from. Those truckers back at Sicamous were also telling me that southeast of there was this free ferry taking cars across the lake. Once on the other side, you could reconnect with the number 1 at Revelstoke from the opposite side of the flooding. Then you could continue on the number 1 as normal. But this would add an additional 375 kilometers to my route. And even worse, apparently everybody else was going down to that ferry, so the wait time was rumored to be between 6 to 9 hours. There aren't many options for crossing the mountains, so I wasn't aware of any better way through. That detour messed everything up. Had I taken the number 1 the whole way, maybe I would have found out about the flooding hours earlier through rumors at gas stations or digital signs that give real-time warnings, and I would have been able to react and change course early enough to avoid this mess. But I'm Van Man. I'm nimble and flexible, and I always find a solution. I had a bed in the back and all the time in the world. There was nothing to fear. However, it was getting dark and I needed to come up with a plan. The ferry was still 200 kilometers away, and by the time I'd get there, it would not only be nightfall, but the 6 to 9 hour wait could easily turn into 12 hours if everyone else was heading down there. And the ferry would probably stop running at night, so that meant up to 20 hours of sitting around and waiting, which sounded awful. I had to find more information and figure out if there was a better solution. It was very difficult doing research with my slow phone and bad data reception in the mountains, and I just had to keep driving, so I called my brother for help.
Hello?
Hey, Detour. Hey, listen, I'm in a bit of a problem here. I need you to research something for me, please.
Sure.
I'm gonna put you on speaker, okay? Because I gotta keep driving. Okay, then I'll explain.
Okay.
Alright. You're on speaker now.
I'll go to my computer.
Back in his comfy apartment, and with fast internet and a proper computer, my brother was much more capable of getting good intel on the situation, and fast. I explained the situation, and while he was doing all the research for me, I could keep pushing road and make progress. It was like having my personal intelligence agent sitting in HQ.
There's no information on their website about what's going on exactly or how long the wait is. But I was able to find a photo of the lineup from a live webcam they have. I just emailed it to you. It shows about 30 cars. But the lineup disappears around the corner, so there's no way of really knowing how long it actually is.
Is there anything on their website that says if there will be an extended ferry service during the night? Just because of the situation?
Negative. Except for that photo, there's no other information.
So I'm going in there blind, hey?
Pretty much.
This was the main problem. The lack of information on what was going on at the ferry made me anxious to go down there. Especially because once you got there, it was a dead end. There were no roads out of there. So if the wait was indeed 20 hours, I'd be stuck there, waiting. But then I got an idea. Actually, Detour, can you find out for me how much longer the route would be if I went down to Grand Forks and then cut east across the Kootenays? Can you compare the two routes for me?
Yeah, let me compare. Under the current plan, down to the ferry, then back up to reconnect with the number 1 at Revelstoke, and east to Calgary is 700 kilometers. Otherwise, if you went south to Grand Forks and cut across the Kootenays, it would be almost 1,000 kilometers all the way to Calgary.
So it's only 300 kilometers more, you're saying?
Yeah.
That's not that much longer, to be honest, and I'm avoiding the ferry.
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, thanks so much, Lieutenant.
No problem. Good luck.
It was really getting dark now and I had to decide soon. I took a minute to think about it, but the better option was pretty obvious. So I drove south for 4 more hours, deep into the night on this empty mountain road. Luckily, the full moon was out, directly ahead of me, and it felt like it was keeping me company. I was quite exhausted after such a long day already, but I had to keep pushing and make it to Grand Forks that night. I got to Grand Forks at 2 a.m. and crashed in a parking lot of a church. Grand Forks, ironically, was the town where me and my friend Lior broke down 2 years earlier on that disastrous road trip in season 2 of the vlog. If you remember that hilarious story with the Christian mechanics, it was that place. Going back to that town brought up a lot of memories from that crazy adventure.
We interrupt this program with an important service announcement. You've all been asking for it, and it's finally here. Van Man merch. Now that Van Man has almost 200 subscribers, and barely even, it's time to monetize. It's been a long time coming, but we finally trademarked the logo, found a reliable supplier, and finalized the designs. Get your piece of this limited edition Van Man merch with countless products to choose from. Why not have your morning coffee in a one-of-a-kind Van Man mug? Feeling chilly from the cool winter air? Keep yourself warm with a Van Man sweatshirt. Going camping? Get yourself a Van Man water bottle, or a Van Man camping mug, or a cooking apron, tote bag, bumper sticker, face mask, even a Van Man tie-dye shirt. With so many products to choose from, how can you even decide? So order now at the link in the comments section. You can even change the order to your favorite color. You can get it in blue, yellow, green, white, purple, red, even pink, burgundy, turquoise, olive green, navy blue, then all kinds of gray, light gray, dark gray, medium gray.
David, that's enough.
Order at the link in the comments section.
After a night of very little sleep, I woke up in the parking lot of that church and went down to the town to get coffee. Then hit the road. I was now entering the beautiful Kootenays, a region which I love driving through. I was actually kind of liking this whole change of plans, because my trips to Calgary are always filled with anxiety, but this one was turning into a fun mini adventure. I felt like I made the right decision not to take that ferry, because moving forward always feels better than being stuck in one place. A couple hours later, I went through the cute town of Nelson, stopped in my favorite coffee shop there, and then took another mini detour on purpose. Just east of Nelson, there's another free ferry taking cars across Kootenay Lake. I've known about this ferry for years, and tried to catch it on several occasions going back west to Vancouver. But I was always too late for it, and ended up taking the Kootenay Pass, a tall mountain where I had another breakdown with my friend in season 1. So I still got my fair experience on this trip, and without the long wait. When I got off on the other side, I still had 9 hours of driving ahead of me, but it was the beautiful Kootenays, so I wasn't complaining. I crossed over into Alberta at night, and got to Calgary again at 2 a.m. After 2 long days of driving for 12 hours each day, you can imagine I was pretty exhausted. After Calgary, I was in prairie country. Quite the drastic change in scenery. The hard part with the mountains was behind me, and I only had 8 hours left of mostly flat and mostly straight. Piece of cake. On that same day, the rabbi's eldest son had his bar mitzvah. It was the first bar mitzvah in their family, so it was a pretty big deal. But because of COVID, they had a Zoom event instead of a live one. While all the other guests were logging in from their comfortable homes, guess where I logged in from? Like a true man of the road. When I entered Saskatchewan, it was nice to see that iconic landscape that's so typical of that province. This was my 6th year coming to Saskatchewan, and it kind of felt like being home. And finally, Saskatoon itself, my final destination. The next morning, it would be hustle time. In the end, instead of this, my usual route done in 2 days, with time in Calgary in between, I had to do this, all in one go. So a small detour turned into a massive one. That's quite the change of plans. 2,200 kilometers and over 30 hours of driving, crunched into 3 full days. If you think I'm crazy to go through all that effort to drive a third of Canada back and forth every single year just to do what I do, then you're probably right.